A Fox News weather alert, millions of Americans up and down the East Coast preparing for what forecasters say could make the top 10 list of the most devastating winter storms to ever hit the region. They warn the blizzard could paralyze cities and cause more than $1 billion in damage. Predictions of snow falling at a rate of 3 inches per hour for 24 hours in some areas. And our nation's capital and other cities could get more than 2 feet. Federal offices began closing around noon hour on the East Coast. Now many of them are closed ahead of the storm. It has already been hitting people in the South, creating a mess on the road, shutting down schools. Forecasters also comparing this to the so-called Snowmageddon that crippled D.C. in February of 2010. More than 7,000 flights are delayed or canceled across the nation. In fact, Philadelphia's airport has canceled all flights for tomorrow. They did that hours ago. We have Team Fox coverage now. Jonathan Seri is live for us in Asheville, North Carolina. We'll get to him in a moment because it looks really cold out there. But first, let's go inside to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth with the big picture in the Fox Extreme Weather Center. Rick?
Hey, Harris, you know, I get a lot of comments on Twitter, people saying this kind of snow, we get it in other places in the country and it's not that big of a deal. You have to understand the amount of people that live in such a dense area here, and that's why a storm like this is potentially so incredibly paralyzing. We have severe weather. We've had it across Florida today. Maybe South Florida, Florida, a little bit of a threat for that. But now we watch this icing that we've been seeing across Interstate 85. We probably have another hour or two of that. 95 and Interstate 40. Watch for that. But the snow now moving north, and we have it falling in D.C. Take a look at the picture of the White House right now. Just an hour ago, this was not the case. Temperatures are 24 degrees in D.C., so the snow that's falling is immediately sticking on the ground. There you go. You get an idea. Just a few minutes ago, the grass in the White House was not covered. Now it is. It's sticking right away, and we're going to be watching snow for the better part of 36 hours there, and that's why the snowfall totals are going to be so extreme. Winter storm warnings in effect anywhere you see the pink, but the blizzard concern is really where we're going to see the worst of the weather with the snow and the wind, and it's all the big cities along the I-95 corridor, except for, say, Boston, but everybody else is in on it. Take a look at some of these model outputs here of these snowfall totals. A very big area, at least 20 inches, but go in towards D.C., 32 inches, just to the west of it up to 35 inches, a little farther towards the north, and we've got 20 inches here across central Jersey and 9 inches in New York City. This right here is our biggest concern. We know we're going to have very heavy snow across much of Virginia here, maybe up towards Philadelphia, but how close this gets to New York City, all the people who are living in New York City, maybe an 8 to 10 inch storm. If it goes a little bit farther towards the north, though, we could be looking at maybe a 1.5 foot kind of a storm. So we still can't say for sure on that. What we do know is the D.C. area up towards Baltimore, likely a 20 to 30 inch snowfall. And that likely, Harris, would be historic.
All right, so this is important because I know you mentioned the wind, but the snow totals have really changed since the last time I saw you. They've gone up a little bit. That puts weight on a lot of those exterior electrical lines in places where they're not buried. Here on the East Coast, we have a lot of older communities. So, you know, you see people putting milk in the fridge, and you and I talked about this yesterday. They need to have batteries for flashlights and things when those utility lines begin to go down. What bumped up those totals?
The latest model ones, you know, they've been very consistent with high numbers here, but early on, we don't like to jump on those kinds of totals because they seem kind of extreme. But once we get closer into the event and the snowfall totals in the model runs continue to be this high, gives us a lot more confidence. It's difficult to say who gets the band that gets those kinds of snowfall totals. Does it end up in D.C. or 15 miles to the west? That's what's really hard to say. But we know a very large area is going to be getting up to about 2 feet of snow. And when you have that across such a vast area, Harris, that's what causes so many of those concerns. Charge up your phones and your iPads and all that stuff as well right now, because you're not going to be possibly having that for a while. Non-perishables, water, and bring in the pets. Lots of pet food in the house, too. You and I have been through it. Thank you, my friend.